All right, good afternoon, everyone. How's it going? Good? Yeah, are you enjoying Signal so far? Did you pick up your swag? Yeah? Not yet? Should go get it. We can't get it because we're employees, but really hope so. Hope that you go ahead and get it. Thanks so much for joining us here today in San Francisco for this week of coding, creating, and hacking with Twilio APIs. And thanks for joining us today for a talk on how to build a modern conversational IVR with Twilio. My name is Pranav Deshpande. I am a senior PMM for Twilio AI, focused on Autopilot currently. And I'm joined today with my colleague, David, who is on our solutions engineering team. And we're going to be talking to you about building conversational IVRs with Twilio. First of all, how many of you over here know what an IVR is? Just a quick show of hands. All right. Everyone, mostly. For those of you who didn't raise your hands, even though you don't know what an IVR means, it's quite likely you've interacted with one most recently, in the recent past. It's that thing you hear when you call your bank to report a charge you don't identify on your credit card. It's that thing you hear when you call your airline to change your flight. It's that robotic voice that allows you to get certain things done with the company that you're calling. And a lot of these IVRs that we speak to routinely, they're kind of stuck in the past in a lot of ways. They require you to use digits to manipulate the IVR and figure out where to go. And so today, we're going to walk you through how you can actually modernize the IVR and bring it into the 21st century. And because this is Twilio, we're not just going to tell you how to build a modern conversational IVR. We're going to show you with an interactive demo. So we'd love for you to take out your phones and do a couple of things for us. First of all, open the Messages app on your phone and type up a message that looks like this. We just want to collect a little bit of information from you. We're not going to store it anywhere. We're not going to use it beyond this demo. It's just so that we can personalize the IVR that this demo, that's being powered in this demo to you so that it greets you by your name and things like that. So once you've typed up this message, go ahead and send it to this phone number.
The order is important in this as well. So as long as we get the order right and the month, date format, then It's going to be all good.
It's still a demo, so we need to be a little careful with it. So once you've done that, let's give everyone a few minutes to do that before moving on. This will give us all of that information so that when you call in from the phone number you've texted in from, you'll get a personalized experience. Cool. All right. For those of you who texted in, thank you. It'll be worth it. We promise. All right. Give it a few more minutes. Just raise your hands if you've done it successfully. That way we can get a quick count of who's in and who's yet to be in. Cool, everyone good? Should we move forward? Cool, all right, thank you. So David, you've built this demo for us today, but it's inspired by an experience you had recently with an IVR. Care to share what went through, what transpired?
I will do that. Thanks, Pranav. So yes, it is inspired by a recent experience. There's an image of a hardware store there. I was in my local hardware store in Austin, Texas. I go there quite often, just built a house, like buying things. And anyway, I bought some stuff and I walked outside and I saw this really cool looking picnic table that was going to go great with my deck. And I'm like, I need to buy that. So I went back inside, said, I want to buy this. And they said, no worries, that's fine. Bring your truck. You live in Texas. You should have a truck. Bring it around and we'll make sure that you can load it up. I said, I don't have a truck. Can you please get it delivered? No worries. We'll get that delivered. We'll get it delivered next week, between Monday to Friday. You've got 5 days. Just make sure you're home. And I'm like, that's That's good for me. I travel a lot, but I'm not traveling next week, so I'll be there. Lo and behold, a week goes past and the picnic table doesn't arrive.
Surprise.
Surprise, surprise. And that kicks off my experience with this IVR. So I call up for the first time, and mind you, I've called up many times, but the first time I got a greeting which wasn't specific, and it certainly wasn't helpful. So I can't remember exactly what was said, but I remember being very, very, very confused. I couldn't get to the delivery team, and that was my intention. I wanted to find out who could help me so I could get this thing delivered at a date where I'd be at my home. So I was greeted by some speech recognition, right? It was trying to understand me. And yes, I've got an Australian accent. Some of you might be struggling a little bit, but I guarantee you I did my best to put on both an American accent, and I said multiple commands to this IVR, things like, connect me to your delivery team, delivery department, a whole different array of commands, but still, every time I got the same message. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with your request, connecting you to the store now. Which wasn't great, because I didn't get the correct department. I got people that frankly just couldn't help me. One girl actually hung up on me. It was the service desk. She was too busy and literally hung up the phone. So by this stage, I'm getting frustrated, right? And keep in mind, I've called up now 3 times. The first time I called up, I was on the phone for 15 minutes. The second time for 45 minutes. And the third time for 1 hour and 15 minutes, and I'm not making this up, I really was. During that whole time, there was no estimated wait time message on the IVR. There wasn't some entertainment, nothing to keep me entertained. It was just a dull sound, and that was it. But finally, I did get through to someone. So when I got through to a human, I realized there was no authentication of who I was. I could have been anyone and literally had my credit card charged again if someone wanted to buy something. There was no security, not in the IVR, but also outside of the IVR with the human experience also. So I think it's fair to say, Pranav, that was a pretty brutal experience.
Yeah, and sorry you had to go through that, David. Especially the point about not recognizing your accent. I can relate to that very, very closely. And the unfortunate thing is that your experience isn't atypical. It's pretty typical. In fact, when you look at the data, a bulk of the interactions that take place between businesses and their customers today start on IVRs, around 30%. And yet, a lot of customers don't feel like IVRs are actually living up to the standards they expect when they contact a company. And this is all the more surprising when you consider that customers will actually reward businesses that give them these frictionless calling experiences. Customers realize, we all realize here that if contacting a business and getting some information from them or getting a particular task done is easy and seamless and frictionless, we will continue to have a relationship with that business. So it's a no-brainer for businesses to invest in improving their IVR experiences. And the trends that we're seeing in customer experience today only point to the situation getting worse for businesses that don't revamp their IVR, like your hardware store. In fact, by 2022, a majority of customer service interactions are going to be self-service in nature, whether that's starting on an IVR or on a chatbot. Customers are increasingly going to want to do self-service interactions and only talk to a human if absolutely necessary. And the solution to this problem, in our opinion, is the modern conversational IVR. And the modern conversational IVR has 3 key attributes. It's contextual. It knows who you are and why you're calling. So it would have greeted you by your name, it would have authenticated you, and it would have asked you if you were calling about a previous order or about something you may have said previously when you interacted with the business. It's intelligent. It doesn't require you to learn how to use it. So it's not a situation where you call someone up or you call an IVR and the first thing you hear is, listen carefully because our options may have changed. How many people have heard that? Right? Then you need to figure out, okay, 3 goes to customer service, but not if I'm in Austin, then it's 2, and then you just end up losing your entire train of thought. And finally, IVRs have to be omni-channel. In fact, the whole notion of an IVR is quickly changing because customers expect to have the same experience on messaging, on their Alexa device, wherever it is that they prefer to interact with the business. So building this kind of experience isn't easy, but it's not impossible. And the way to do it is to make sure you have the right building blocks and the right platform available to you so that you can continue to provide this experience to your customers. And the building blocks you have need to have certain core attributes, the most important of which are these 4 over here. So let's talk about customizability. You need to be able to change the IVR to suit the unique relationship you have with your customers. It needs to be flexible so that you can accommodate the changing nature of this relationship. So let's say if you're an insurance company and there's a flood somewhere and suddenly everyone's calling about their flood insurance, you need to be able to update the IVR to accommodate this large volume of requests about that specific scenario. Then you need natural language understanding. This is what imbues the IVR with intelligence. This is how you move away from DTMF and touch-tone-based interfaces to speech-based interfaces that customers can just use to talk to the IVR. And finally, you need channel coverage, the ability to deploy that IVR or that bot as a chat bot, as an Alexa skill, as a WhatsApp bot, wherever it is that your customers choose to interact with you. And that's what we're going to show you here today. A small demo that David has built after he had that frustrating experience about building a modern conversational IVR with Twilio. So with that, we're going to jump right in. David?
Thank you. So I think the best way to demo an IVR is to call it, right? Phone it up. So can we get a volunteer in the audience to come up here? Oh, look, there's Chris.
Oh, hey, Chris.
How randomly that was selected. Please.
Funny seeing you here.
Please come on stage.
How's it going, guys?
Hey, Chris. Now, you also, at the very start of this presentation, and yes, so we do know each other, right?
Yes.
But this is not scripted. So Chris has also texted in his details the same way that you have, although he might have done it yesterday. He texted in the exact same information for this IVR. And what we're going to do here is we're going to try and replicate the experience that I had with this new IVR. So, Chris, what I'd like you to do is call up the IVR, and this is a different type of hardware store. This is Signal hardware, and Signal hardware likes to make sure the customer experience is great.
It's modern.
It's modern. It's so we're going to do the first 2 things that I wanted to do, right? I wanted to check the status of my order, and then I wanted to reschedule delivery. But we're going to go a step further in this IVR. We're also going to check if another product or item is in stock in Signal Hardware's store, and then if it is, we want to go ahead and actually buy that product. So without further ado, Chris, do you want to phone up the IVR?
All right, here we go.
Calling. Signal Hardware Store protects our customer accounts and we make sure your information and orders are secure. Press 1 so we can send you a security code. We just sent you a message. Can you please type in those 4 digits to your phone's keypad?
So I just got a message with a 2724.
Thanks, Chris Fian, you've been verified. I'm looking at our customer records and I can see that your birthday is in 58 days. We'd like to say thanks for being a loyal customer, and we'll be sending you out a $100 gift card on the 3rd October as an early birthday present from us. Now, how can I help you today?
I'd like to check the status of my order.
I see one active order for a Ryobi 20-inch, 40-volt brushless lithium-ion cordless battery lawnmower. This is scheduled for delivery on August 11th at 9 a.m. Is there anything else I can do for you?
I need to reschedule delivery.
Okay, let me see if I can reschedule delivery for you. What is the new date you would like your item delivered?
August 12th,
And for what time?
5 p.m.
It looks like we're in luck. I have successfully rescheduled delivery of your item for the 12th of August 2019 at $1,700. Is there anything else I can do for you?
I really need a power saw. Is that something you guys can help me with?
I'm having some trouble with what you are saying. Perhaps you want to ask about your order or check on a product?
I'd like to buy a power saw. Is that something you guys can help me with?
So I can find the exact item you are looking for, can you please respond to these quick questions? What is the product category? You can say things like fridges, lighting, or power drills.
Power saw.
What is the brand or model? You can say things like Whirlpool French door or ring wide floodlight.
Cobalt.
PC item number 678623 is currently in stock and on sale for $399.99. There are only 2 left in inventory. Would you like to purchase?
Yeah.
Starting payment. Please enter your credit card number.
And at this stage, Chris gets his credit card number out for us all to see.
And we all note it down.
Credit card number.
So, I mean, we are in a PCI compliant payment gateway right now, but we don't need to go through the process of actually buying for this pseudo power drill for $399.
That's a power drill.
Thank you, Chris. Can Chris get a round of applause?
Thank you.
Thank you. So Chris read partly from the script, but we're all going to have an opportunity in a second to interact with this IVR, and I challenge you to use your own language. Now, keep in mind that the demo was built in a day and a half, so there's still a bit of training to do when it comes to the conversation within the IVR. But everyone will get an opportunity using the same phone number that you messaged in to interact with this IVR. And currently it performs 4 tasks. These tasks are the tasks that you can see here. So if you'd like to write those down, do we have time to do it now, do you think?
Yeah. I think we have a few minutes. So
Okay, so
the phone number you received the text from, just call that number if you want to experience the IVR firsthand.
that's the phone number on
That's
the
the
screen
number in case.
Just voice.
Just voice right now, because
It's up.
we've set the texting up to collect your information, but
Yeah.
it's trivial to have the same thing on SMS.
Yeah, could be the same experience over SMS. Certainly is, and if you go through the IVR yourself, you'll in fact get an email with the link to the source code. Providing you've put your email address when you sent that initial message in.
Let's give it to like 10 and then.
Yep. So I think there's a lot of noise in the room as well.
Yeah.
So the IVR might not be able to interpret all the things that have been said, but it seems like it's working. It's good.
Yeah, we got a lot of phones on ears. Yeah, don't be afraid to scream at the IVR too. I know we all enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
Yes?
Is there a Twilio call that can take the conversation September 5th?
Yeah, so we're using Autopilot for this speech to text, and the Autopilot logs will show you the transcription in the console. So you can see A, if it was transcribed accurately, and B, if that transcription triggered the appropriate task in Autopilot.
And I think that's actually a really good segue.
Yeah. That wasn't planned, by the way. That was an organic question.
That's a great segue. And I think...
And we'll do more questions later on at the end of the talk. So
absolutely. And also, we can all experience the IVR later on. The code's not going to get deleted in the next 24 hours. So if everyone has the phone number from the initial SMS, you can use that later on. But I do want to talk about how the IVR was actually built. And it was a really good question that was asked. Pranav mentioned earlier the building blocks to building the perfect IVR. So these are the building blocks that we use to create this IVR, and these are all Twilio products. And I'd like you to pay attention to this stack and the layers of this stack, because in the next few slides, I'm going to go through in detail what each layer means as it applies to this IVR. But importantly, I'd like to emphasize that these building blocks can be rearranged. They can be reordered. They can be substituted for new Twilio products. They can be completely taken out. New ones can be put in. And this is all based off the perfect IVR for your business. But for Signal hardware, the first layer of the IVR, we're using Twilio Studio and Autopilot, which gives us structure, flexibility, and really complete control of this IVR. So Studio is a virtual application builder. It allows us to rapidly create communication workflows using pre-built widgets. And most of the IVR has been designed in Studio. Autopilot is our natural language processing and machine learning product that Pranav has a lot to do with. And in this IVR, we switch between Studio and Autopilot. So Studio gives us the structure. It allows us to easily design the experience for our IVR, but switching to Autopilot allows us to have a conversation when the IVR requires it. For example, Chris wanted to reschedule his delivery, and instead of having to try to enter a date and a time on the keypad of his phone, he could simply say the date and the time, and Autopilot asks these really relevant and specific questions. In layer 2, we're providing functionality to our IVR. Twilio functions are low latency serverless standalone functions you can execute within a pre-configured environment. It includes things like API keys and helper libraries and NPM packages, and we're using Moment.js for those of you who are familiar with that to pass date and time in this IVR. So we're also, and functions really act as a gateway for us to do some specific things and personalize the experience. Things like sending an authorization code. Things like verifying that authorization code is in fact the correct code. We're doing that inside of Studio, inside of the IVR, using a function. We're also dipping into our system of records and getting personalized customer data to use in this IVR. So I don't know if you heard it, and perhaps you've experienced it yourself when you called up, but you might have noticed how your birthday was in September 26, was in month date format, as opposed to when you typed in the numeric values into the IVR. We're using a function to pass that information out and make the experience more personalized, more targeted, more conversational.
And even to send the email, right? That's all done through functions.
Absolutely. Yep, to send an email, and I don't know if anyone's checked their email who experienced the IVR, but there will be an email waiting for you. And I don't need to go into too much detail about voice and messaging. I think everyone here is probably familiar with the fact that Twilio is pretty good at voice and messaging. But it is worth noting that we are concurrently communicating over both of these channels. And lastly, and I'll move quickly here, the third layer gives us customizability. So with functions as the gateway, we can perform these specific tasks. We can send an email. We're using Sync as our store of records. Sync are a collection of JSON objects, and we're using this really to mimic a database or a CRM or a system of records, and that's what you would use to dip into inside of your IVR. Pay, it's a shame Chris didn't go through with his payment, but it was a PCI compliant and secure environment, and we're embedding that into our IVR, so you can pay for products and really not have to interact with anybody. And then Authy is Twilio's two-factor authentication product, and that's also embedded in the IVR to make sure that the human who is actually calling up is verified and is who they say they are. Pranav.
Yeah, so just to kind of recap everything you've said, David, and tie it back to the 3 core attributes of a modern conversational IVR. I mean, we discussed earlier that the modern conversational IVR is contextual, it's intelligent, and omni-channel. So just wanted to position all of the different Twilio products we have here into these categories and see how they've allowed us to build an IVR that actually has these attributes. And so when you look at it, essentially, on the contextual side, we have our voice APIs, which allow us to build these completely customizable and flexible experiences that can pull data from different sources and different workflows into the IVR experience. We've got Authy that makes it possible to authenticate the customer while they're on the phone so that you can then proceed with a more personalized experience because now you know who they are and you don't have to be worried about them impersonating a customer and committing fraud. And then you have Studio, the scaffolding that kind of brings all of this together. If you look at the code we've sent out later on, as well as the blog post that kind of summarizes how this was built, you'll see that Studio has a number of different widgets in there. One widget for sending the authentication code, another function that sends the email, and then another that directs you to Autopilot. And once you're done with Autopilot, you're sent to pay through the pay widget to complete the transaction. So it gives you a great way to visualize and configure the entire IVR experience. And then, of course, there's Autopilot, which is powering the natural language interface and allows you to build that natural interface, as well as provides you with the tools you need to continuously train the model and program and design the interaction that the IVR is capable of delivering. And then we have messaging and email that allow you to concurrently communicate with the customer on different channels. You're not just restricted to the voice interface. And with that, you can actually go ahead and build a modern conversational IVR with some of these building blocks, all of them if you so choose. And so we've sent you the source code. We've sent you a blog post. Part 1 of the blog post is another that's coming soon that's going to talk
Part 2 will be built soon.
And you can definitely reach out to us anytime if you have any questions about this. We're going to be around here, around the stage outside to chat, and come down to the Autopilot booth in the demo expo hall in case you want to chat further and experience Autopilot and some of these other products in more detail. With that, thank you so much for attending. And yeah, play around with the IVR. It's going to be... Thank you.
Thank you.